to dive into this phenomenal, I'm just already going to say historic album. Seriously, historic album, Soulscapes #2, that will be released very, very soon. Today, I'm going to go ahead and get my pre-order and get ready for this. But I'm so excited. Thank you for joining me today to talk about this. Let's just go ahead. I love talking about the music.
Sure.
I love talking about the music.
Absolutely.
So can we first talk about Soulscapes 1?
Yes.
Did this come out as 2007, 2006?
2006, yeah.
2006. And can you talk a little bit about why you chose to do this album? All Black female composers.
Well, I mean, the first solo piano recording I did was Etudes by Leslie Adams, you know, and that was a fantastic experience. And, you know, he was very, very generous to send me these pieces. But I also, it's not, you know, that Black male composers have gotten their due. But I know that, you know, men typically get a little bit more of their due than women do, regardless of whether we're down here somewhere. The women are like subterranean.
Yes.
So that was what inspired me to want to record just recording of women. And I had become aware of the Hildegard collection of music by Black. Yeah. So there was that. And then I became aware of the Price Sonata, which was a monumental undertaking. And then I had done a concert, actually, this was the trip to New York where I actually met Dr. Adams for the first time, and I got these other pieces. But I heard some wonderful music by Valerie Capers on that program, The Song of the Seasons. And so I asked her if she had any piano music, and she said she had, you know, it was an intermediate level collection of portraits and jazz, but they were just so charming and lovely. And, you know, back then I was a little smarter because the price was really, really hard.
Yes.
And I did a couple pieces that I had done before, like I had played Troubled Water, you know, that's sort of like, if there's a hit among Black women composers' music, Troubled Water is it, but I played that one. So at least it's something I knew that time. And, you know, and so anyway, that was the genesis of that particular set. I tried to choose a variety of styles, and, you know, the rest of the pieces were relatively short. And then there was this gigantic price, and then the collection of jazz portraits, which were, you know, as I said, really charming and not overly difficult. So fast forward to this one. And, like the idea, I just didn't think I was going to record another CD. First of all, because I mean, I had to pay last time, and, you know, like back then, but, you know, this time I knew that you have to pay to get it recorded. And it's not like some record company was coming to me and saying, hey, we want you to do this, we're going to fund it, you know. But I discovered that Soulscapes 1 had actually been something that touched people. I mean, I just didn't really know, you know, I wasn't getting a lot of feedback from it necessarily. And so when I discovered that it was Rebecca Omordia, who lives in the UK. She's a Nigerian, Romanian pianist who does the African Concert Series London. And so she reached out to me about being part of that, since it was going to be all virtual and I didn't have to go anywhere. But that was how I discovered that Soulscapes 1 had been known by her and Samantha Eggy also mentioned that she's familiar with that. And so then I was like, another pianist, Jared Oakes, who lives here in the States, contacted me or was on Facebook or something and said, hey, you know, I really appreciate your playing. If you ever have a project that you want to do, I want to help you raise money for it. I was like, wow. So then, like, pandemic, no concerts. And, you know, I was just like, I don't know, it just kept growing in my mind that, okay, I'm just going to take a leap of faith here, that, you know, these are things that are coming together that are suggesting that maybe there is an interest in a second one.
Yes.
You know? And also, I mean, I hate to say this, but, you know, the George Floyd murder, and suddenly people were for at least a moment saying, wow, are we like disregarding Black people? Maybe they had a point. Maybe there is something going on here.
Yes.
You know, it was not just complaining for no good reason. So anyway, so yeah, it was a confluence of things. And then I started putting things in place. Now the way I chose the repertoire for the second one was I still had some pieces in that other collection I hadn't learned. And I sort of looked through and looked for other things that looked interesting. I had met Tanya Leon a number of years ago.
Okay.
I don't remember it because it wasn't like we were just sitting down and chatting, but she was at a conference and she had some of her scores. And so I bought some of her scores and I looked at them and was like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Difficult.
Yeah, and so I had you know, I mean, I've been doing a lot of collaborating and stuff like that. So like spending the time to dedicate to learn one of those scores, it wasn't really on the radar of, you know, with my kids, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So I looked in the file and I was like, okay, well, I have Momentum and I have Ritual, and I listened to them because now there are recordings of them online. And I was like, okay, I think I'll pick Ritual. It seems like it's got this rhythmic element that appeals to me, and woo. And then
Yes.
yeah, woo. And so then I have a friend named Crystal Folkstad Grant who used to live in Lancaster, PA, where I am.
Okay.
And so I thought, you know, let me commission with this little bit of money that someone is getting for me something new. And so there was that. And then I also thought, since I have recently started to identify as a composer. I was assigned at birth pianist, but I now identify as a composer. So I am, I hope that wasn't offensive. Anyway, I said it. So now I'm thinking, well, if I'm going to record music by Black women, I'm a Black woman, I'm a composer, so let me write some stuff for piano, because I've only like done mainly piano and voice at that point, and a little bit of instrumental.
Okay.
That's the rest of it. That's how I got the rest of it. And it's just crazy. Oh, last thing. Yes. Judy Bradley, I was at another conference for the African American Art Song Alliance, and she sent me this Q&A saying, you know, if you ever have a reason to record again, or, you know, I'm sending you this piece. And so, yeah, that was there as well. And I liked it and I learned it. So, but put all together, the choices were not like kind and gentle to me as a person who is long separated from my DMA. Like when I did my DMA, I had no kids, and I was just, my job was to be a student. I mean, I had a little bit of an accompanying job on the side, you know, but life was not simple, but it was maybe a little less complicated.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, the pandemic, of course, made a difference, but, you know, my son is on the autism spectrum. He still is a factor. And I still had my church job, which is virtual. So I'm putting together all these anthems, like on the computer, like layering all the voices, which was interesting, like fairly time consuming. So I was practicing like I haven't practiced since I was in the DMA program. Wow. Just so much. And it felt good, but it also was like, oh my goodness, wow. This is hard work.
It's a lot. Yes. It is a lot. And I was looking, I mean, just looking when you sent me the list, I was just shocked, truly shocked, the amount of music that's going to be out. I mean, it's a lot. It absolutely a lot. And
well, most of them are very short.
Okay.
So that's the thing. The only thing that is longer is the price, the first price Fantasy Neck. Right. And I forgot the research that I did to find the people who were the composer who is an African woman. And there aren't a lot of African women, it seemed to have written for piano, or they, you know, I was asking, and Rebecca Omordia, because I figured she would know, and she said, no, it's still kind of patriarchal in that regard. Yes. And then I found the composers from the UK. Eleanor Alberga, and, you know, fabulous of Jamaican descent, and Erilyn Wallen and Shirley Thompson, who I was familiar with from a friend who said, hey, maybe you guys are related. I don't know if we are or not, but, you know, I'm not sure. I mean, she has Jamaican roots and so do I, but yeah, but it's not a super long recording. It's like 72 minutes, the usual amount.
That's still a lot. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Just
right.
70 minutes, just so you know, that's still phenomenal. I wanted to ask you, and maybe I'm looking too much into it, maybe not. I thought it was beautiful that you're starting with the Jamaican melodies and you're ending with the Price.
Mhm.
And you were born in Jamaica, is that correct, right? So
Yes.
I wonder, I mean, is the album itself kind of like a representation of you, you know, where you started, how you're identifying yourself as a Black woman?
Mhm.
And I think the last albums, or I should say Soulscapes 1, it
Mhm.
also ended with Florence Price.
Mhm.
Is that right? So I'm wondering, you know, as Black female pianists,
Mhm.
I know for myself, like when I think about Florence Price, she means so much, right? She means so much to me, to us.
Mhm.
And she has so many aspects of herself.
Mhm.
Yes, as a pianist, as a pedagogue,
Mhm.
as a composer. And then you are also in this album, you're writing, there's a section towards the end where it's your music as
Mhm.
well, right? So I wondered if it's this whole album is representative of how you how you identify yourself as a Black female mother, artist, pianist, composer, all the hats that you wear.
Um, yeah, that's an interesting observation. I don't remember the order, so let me not say if my
Sure.
first one ends with Price. I know
Okay.
this one does, but there were a lot of things that went into that decision. But yes, I definitely started with the Jamaican medley because it is, you know, yes. As soon as I saw that she'd done that, I was like, okay, I have to learn it. You know,
Yeah.
luckily I listened to it and I was like, wow, this is fabulous. But I was like, yeah, I definitely have to include that. But and then I went to composers with roots more directly in the continent of Africa.
Okay.
And that was a deliberate choice. But from there, it was sort of more trying to arrange, you know, like not too many of the really super modern, loud, percussive things together.
Yes.
So some of it after that was not quite as autobiographical. But putting my stuff all together, and towards the end, like I played with a number of different things, and you know, there was the whole like, okay, do I want to put my music after they've heard all this other fabulous music? I don't know. But then you know, yeah, but it sort of also like it was fun to put the pieces that I wrote when I was little, like I was, well, now it's little, like 13, 14 years old, with the other ones, and see that there are a lot of the same things that appealed to me that appealed to me back then, and I hadn't thought about it, you know, because I hadn't really thought of composing for a while. But ending with Price, I mean, she does sum up a lot of things that, you know, I mean, she is now finally getting more of her due. I mean, it's a little bit of the representation, like the, I don't want to say token, because,
Yes.
you know, she's wonderful, but it's like, okay, we got to expand. So let's stick with Price. She's got a lot of music, and, you know, no, we're doing it. We're doing Price, you know, and I don't know, maybe it's broadening a bit, but it seems like it's all focused on Price. And as I said, she's wonderful and she deserves the mantle, but I do see a little bit of like, you know, I mean, and the thing about Price also, I mean, it's obvious the reasons why you don't have Black female composers in from the 1800s or something like that. She writes in a very romantic style.
It's true.
She uses the spiritual, which, you know, a lot of people like spirituals, even if they don't like Black people, they like spirituals, you know,
Right.
because the melodies are so gorgeous.
It's
And
true.
so, you know, I think that, you know, that's part of the reason that she gets she does the deserved traction that she's getting.
Sure.
But yeah, but ending with Price, I mean, I will say that playing that genre, that sort of more romantic genre, has typically been more of my wheelhouse than the more percussive and modern things.
Sure.
But yeah, there are various reasons that Price is, I think, a really good way to end.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that point you're making, because I often talk about how, like you said, I'm so grateful that the recent scholarship has come up, you know, with Florence Price. However, there are many, many artists before who have been, you know, performing her music. And as you said, rightfully so. But what I love about this album coming out, and really any type of recognition, you know, understanding and promotion of Black women composers, is because when all of this spotlight has been on Florence Price as of recent, I think that what it's also done is it's kind of created a void in a way of recognizing so many other phenomenal Black female composers.
In
And
this country, in
yes,
this country, in
yes,
the UK, in the UK, it seems that, you know, Shirley Thompson has won an OBE. Erilyn Wallen and Eleanor Alberga have been performed at the proms, and you know, these people, it seems like they get at least, you know, some good recognition. That's pretty,
right.
that's pretty good,
That's
actually.
amazing. Yes.
But not here, but not here.
It's
Yeah.
terrible. I hate that. I hate that. I really do feel that, you know, albums like this, that's the way to start. That's the way to start getting the recognition that deserves, really. It's really inspiring, really inspiring.
Well, part of the reason I wanted to use so many short pieces was because I wanted to have as many different people represented as possible. I mean, that hopefully someone hears the short, you know, like, oh, wow, I wonder what else this woman has written, and goes to their other repertoire. And I think, yeah.
That's beautiful. Can I ask, when you were at Juilliard, were you performing any piano music by Black composers, Black female composers? Or was it even on your radar?
It was not. I was not. I grew up in Western Canada, and so we did Canadian composers.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, I was very aware of the music of, you know, like Jamaican folk songs and all these different things, and you know, loved the steel band, and you know, heavily into Bob Marley and the type that my dad introduced me to. But yeah, but it wasn't something that I really associated with classical music. And so, you know, I had and it's sort of like, it's just how your brain can get limited by what's in front of you, you know, and not, I said, you know, wasn't seeking to break out of that. I guess I just, you know, associated certain kinds of music with certain people, and we're dominating this kind of music, and I love it and it's wonderful. And then, you know, we just don't do that much with classical music, and it's all good because the stuff we do is so amazing, which doesn't make any sense, but
Right.
you know, like it's like this sort of tunnel vision. So when I went to Juilliard, I mean, my teacher was Hungarian. He was a fantastic teacher. And, you know, but I should blame myself for a lack of additional curiosity. I mean, it was, you know, I played some, you know, you're playing spirituals with, and that's something that always, but no, I didn't think, well, I wonder if Hall Johnson wrote a solo piano piece. I'm just like, okay, here I am at Juilliard, and these are the things that my teacher can get me through, you know, like staying in his wheelhouse as opposed to exploring. But when I graduated, I got a job at Florida A&M. And Mary Roberts was the head of the keyboard division at that point, and that she was one who first introduced me to you know, Samuel Coleridge Taylor's Deep River, and I learned Juba dance, and I learned Troubled Water. That was the first time I was introduced to Troubled Water, and so, you know, she was the one who kind of opened the door to that. And then meeting Leslie and getting to know his music, and I've performed a number of times with Daryl Taylor, my good friend Daryl Taylor, and he does, you know, that was his thing. He came there to introduce African American art song, and he was just starting out with the African American Art Song Alliance around that time. That was the late 90s. So yeah, from there I started getting, you know, it just was more on my radar. And it was stupid because when I was in New York, one of my ex-husband's friends, he was my boyfriend then, but anyway, performed From the Dark Tower by Dorothy Red Moore. So, you know, there was some awareness that, oh, Dorothy Red Moore is a person, and wow, this is a great piece.
Right.
But then I didn't continue. I was like, well, I'm working on pictures of an exhibition. I got to practice pictures.
Right.
You know, that took some work. So, you know, but yeah, I mean, and I think, well, I guess this is why I would never want to go backwards in life unless I could take what I already know back. Because it would have been cool if while I was there, I had rocked the boat a little bit and just been like, I remember, and I say this story over and over because it was such an outrageous statement. When I was in piano lit class, my teacher there said, you know, he was talking about, I don't even know how the subject came up, but he said, you know, that people, or Black people, because I don't think he even said African American, haven't really contributed to the canon of piano music because, you know, they haven't quite got, well, how did he put it? It was like the music hasn't risen to the level of the mainstream or something. The implication being that there was no music yet written by Black composers that was really good enough to be included in the canon.
Right.
And, you know, I remember sitting there being like, whoa, really?
Right. Yeah.
But then again, I went back and practiced,
Right.
you know, the Schumann fantasy. So it was like, okay,
Right.
you know, but I mean, these inklings of, like, I said, wow, that was a really, I mean, he was given to making dramatic blanket statements. So I didn't take a lot of what he said 100% seriously.
Okay.
You know, but I was still, you know, trying to get through and not taking extra time away from all the hours I was practicing and being intensely involved in this relationship and all these sorts of things.
Right.
My focus to say, wow, the Schomburg is uptown. I wonder if they have any information. You know, I was just like,
focus, laser focus. I mean, and that's something that conservatory life, I think, does, right, for all of us. I am hopeful that maybe now, you know, universities, conservatories are going to start doing that work with broadening their understanding of what we're calling the canon, right, and including more voices in that. I do love, though, you were saying you were at Texas A&M.
Florida.
Sorry, not Texas. Sorry, Florida. And I always talk about, I'm at University of District of Columbia now, founded as a historically Black college. And I always talk about how the curriculum at a lot of HBCUs, it already fosters so much in like an inclusive nature, right? At the core, you will be studying music by Black composers alongside Schubert, right? Alongside Chopin, right? And I always wonder, like, if we can just get everyone on board to thinking about music in that way, right? You don't have to scratch your head and you know, do a whole lot, because there are schools around the country who are doing it because they choose to make it a priority in their curriculum, right?
Yeah.
So it really is, it's a choice. It's a choice.
Yeah.
And if our schools do it and our teachers do it, the students will also follow, right?
Yeah, we'd also like, but I mean, the mindset to overcome with these things is, you know, there's a young lady who I got connected to because she was thinking of going to Juilliard. She never actually went to Juilliard, but you know, she's in the UK, and she was thinking of performing some music by Black composers for some student performance, but she wondered if it would be too political. And I was like, well, if you were French and you did a bunch of pieces by Debussy, you know, and she's like, oh yeah, actually, but there's that thing. It's like, you know, people have, you know, they took the word woke and made it a bad thing, you know, and it's like, do you have the courage, you know, when you're young, because it's hard when you're young.
It is.
To define yourself in that way and say, no, I'm unapologetically Black and I'm playing music by Black people, you know, why not? You know, or I'm unapologetically Latinx and I'm playing music by Latinx composers or Asian composers or whatever, these groups of people, you know, as I say on, I think I said it on the recording, I said it somewhere anyway, for some publicity related thing, that it would be ridiculous to assume that a whole group of people is incapable of creating good music, you know, and that kind of is the assumption. It's like, well, you guys do your little thing, or you do your thing over here.
Right.
Was my tunnel mindset. It's like, we're doing our thing over here. We aren't doing much with this. So whatever. That makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Well, I feel like I want to talk more, about all of these things, but let me ask you, in this new album, is there one piece, I mean, I know that's hard to say, but is there one piece that you would feel that, how do I want to say this? Is there one piece that if we could not listen for some reason to any other piece, this is the one that you would want people to kind of take away with? Something that spoke to you maybe the most, I guess I'm saying.
Oh boy. No, I can't
Okay.
answer that question. It's
Okay.
like, which of your children do you love the best?
Sure.
Well, I can't
Sure.
really answer that question. No.
Sure.
I mean, again, the Jamaican medley is, these are tunes from, I mean, I left Jamaica when I was very young, and some of the tunes I didn't know, but there were so many familiar moments. And so that aspect, I mean, I would say my own piece, just because, they are coming out of me more specifically than anything else, obviously. But, I mean, the Mary Lou Williams was, oh, that nearly killed me. But it was it was so great. Like her virtuosity was
Yes.
so cool. And I loved the idea of that being included in the book of compositions, as transcribed stride piano,
Yes.
because I mean,
Yes.
I mean, she was such a virtuoso. It's just scary. And but no, I really can't choose one. And also, like, the more experimental, what's experimental now? There's nothing.
That's
What's
true. How do we define that?
right? Yeah, it's not experimental, just dissonant, really, is all. But it really takes you on a journey, some of these things. But yeah, that was a non-answer. So there we go. I loved that, I loved to have been able to include nods to different folk traditions, and to include some stuff that was, like, for example, the I wouldn't normally say by Erlyn Wallen was from was it, oh boy, my brain. It's Latin inspired. She's from Belize, and it was Latin inspired, and it was a whole recording that was just dedicated to bossa nova. No, I can't remember the name of it. Oh, this is terrible. Anyway, but it was a whole recording, and I think it was commissioned for that recording. So there are aspects of the Afro-Latin and jazz, and as well as things that are, wouldn't be identifiable as having any root necessarily in Africa, that I can hear over, like people just writing, like Betty Jackson King's Spring Intermezzo. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece that, it doesn't have that flavor. But I mean, I think that's the thing. I don't think you have to be self-conscious about, I think that you should be able to write whatever you want to write, and then put it out there, and it's music, and you are who you are, and it came out of you. And so I wanted to represent, all of these things without being self-consciously, well, this doesn't have an Afro rhythm to it, or this doesn't have jazz chords, or, I mean, whatever, just people creating whatever they wanted to create.
For what they want to. Absolutely. And that's how it should be, right? And what I'm also hopeful for, when I look at albums like this, so many times people are wanting, this quote unquote Black sound. They have this preconceived notion. They specifically want a certain type of movement by, Florence Price, or, something like that, too, because I always think of it as they're kind of checking this box, programming, right?
Right.
But what I love is that, all music can be whatever that composer wants it to be, right?
It should be. Yeah.
That's how it should be. You're absolutely right. And I love that, because there's so many composers on your album, it creates so much variety. So it really does open up, hopefully, open up the mind and the hearts of what this music, right? It's important music. It's beautiful music. And that is powerful.
And if you don't like this composer, it's not like, well, Black composers are not good because I didn't like this person.
Right.
There's another.
Exactly.
Have affinities for different. Some people don't like playing Baroque music. Does that mean we should cancel Bach? No.
Right.
No one's gonna, but no one would even think of doing that. They
it would be crazy. Right.
Yeah. And the thing is, unless you try out, I mean, if you just never delve into the music, you don't know if you like it or not. You don't know if it's good or not. And, like just dipping your toe in with one little piece, I don't know. I mean, I think there's so many different people learning to play the piano still, and performing the piano. And yeah, if you find that this isn't your wheelhouse, I mean, that's good too. But I mean, how do you know if you just disregarding or not even curious? And I'm hoping that's the thing. I hope people at least get curious.
Perfect.
I adore the Chopin F minor ballade. It's a great piece. Every time I play it, it's equally great. But, you know, I mean, the be all and end all, it doesn't stop with this music that we've heard a lot. I'm not trying to, again, I'm not trying to get rid of all that music.
Right,
You
right.
know, but I mean, no one can play everything. So you choose from the different things, and you will find that you are that much richer as a result. I mean, as a musician, as an artist, for having expanded. I mean, like, as I said, you know, I looked at ritual and I was like, whoa, whoa. And but having spent the time, I mean, yeah, I mean, I grew as a pianist. I mean, I really came to love that piece, even though it nearly killed me. Playing it was so hard. but you know, I mean, like, and it's not something that you know, play through initially and you're like, oh wow, I'm touched by the lovely melody.
Sure.
But the just the intensity of it, and you know, the like the rhythmic, yeah, it's just like, even I was surprised that my mother, when she first heard it, she said that it felt like a ritual, like it was, you know, ritual. And you know, she called Pocomania is it's sort of a thing where it's like these ecstatic dances where people, you know, like they're doing whatever they're doing and it's getting more and more frenzied. And that's, I assume, what, you know, similar depiction. So yeah.
No, that's amazing. Before I let you go, I have to ask, can you talk a little bit about your pieces on the album? Kind of, you know, what inspired those?
Okay. Yeah, the first one was my decision to lucid dreaming. I think that's the first one I put on. Anyway, lucid dreaming was just like, I like to sleep.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of something. I used to have, well, yeah. Well, no, I was thinking, okay, I should write something for this recording. And then I was like, well, what really interests me? I like to sleep. But lucid dreaming also, I used to have lucid dreams where I could fly. And sometimes I would get, you know, sometimes it was harder to get off the ground than other. It was like escaping from something by flying. So, but you know, this sort of altered world of dreams appealed to me, and just, you know, wanting to communicate, like, to me, you know, making music tangible, it's sort of like you're dreaming it into existence in a sense.
I
And
love
so
that.
that was part of the thought that I had as I was like, you know, I thought of the title basically before I started writing it. And then the nautical glimpses, as I said, I wrote when I was 13, 14, and I had a year of composition lessons, and this lady was like, you know, you study this person and then you do things sort of in the style of, so the first one is in the style of Prokofiev. I don't remember the other ones. I think Recess, which is kind of my favorite one, just came out of just, you know, having experience with kids.
Yeah.
It's Recess. So the other ones I don't think are as rooted in, that I can see rooted in somebody else, but the first one is, you know, I wrote in the style of Prokofiev. So those are super short. And then blissful ignorance and willful ignorance.
Yes.
So blissful ignorance, like, the idea is just people going along, you know, again, with this single-minded focus of just everything is okay and things are happening all around them, clearly, but they're just soldiering on with this thing. And then, you know, just like C major, and it's, you know, just this kind of slightly corny little pretty little tune, and then things are dropping and getting more emphatic, and then at the end there's this slide down to the abyss, because you know, it's like it's all going to come crumbling down. You can't just state of blissful ignorance, and it lasts for like a minute, so you know.
Okay.
And the last one, willful ignorance, well, that's when you really know, and then you're just, and again, this was inspired by the whole summer of, you know, finding out about Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd and all these sorts of things, and people just with their bombast and their you know, blaring message of like nothing is really wrong and these are isolated incidents, and trying to normalize it. And then I have Go Down Moses, kind of tries to peek through and get shadowed down by, again, the super loud theme. And then at the very end, you know, the Go Down Moses comes through and has its moment of speaking a little bit longer, and then in the end gets shouted down. It's not a very long piece, but you know, that's the thing, is like the contrast between all this sort of jingoistic kind of fife like things in the piano going, and then you get these interruptions that are in the end ignored. So that showed I wasn't very hopeful.
No, I mean, that's so powerful just listening to you speak about that. Mike, and I'm really just getting chills. I cannot wait to listen to this. I cannot wait. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anything else, last thoughts that you would want to tell anyone about your album?
Well, just that it was a labor of love, and that, you know, I do hope that people take to heart that it will be a wide variety of music. Absolutely. And that, you know, if this one doesn't appeal to you, that one will, and it's just the tip of the iceberg of what Black women have done and continue to do in classical music. So, you know, I hope it's a gateway drug. Will become addicted.
I love that. Gateway. I love that so much. That's beautiful. Perfect. Renee, thank you so much. Really, this was a joy for me. And I am certain that the takeaway will be so profound for what you've done for really the entire industry. I'm not being, you know, too bold in saying that. It really is a historical album, and I'm so grateful, and I'm looking forward to getting my copy of it, and for everyone to really explore this music even more. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Looking forward to talking to you again when we get a chance.
Yeah, sounds great. Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.